The gentlewoman is recognized for 4 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the gentleman for yielding. Mr. Speaker, fiscal conservatism means cutting spending where possible and, in turn, spending responsibly. Yes, it is a balance. In our homes, we have to do it. In our businesses, we have to do it. When economy goes down, you don't spend as much in your business or your home. So you have to be balanced and responsible. Today's vote is timely. The CBO's recent report confirmed what many of us already know. Washington has a spending problem. The budget deficit will near $1 trillion next year, and trillions more are projected indefinitely. Only a decade ago, the federal debt held by the public was 39% of GDP. Let me say that again, it was only 39% of GDP. Maybe even too much at that time. But today, it's 75%, and it is expected to surpass 96% over the next decade. Anybody think that that's sustainable? And at what point does the debt become so severe that we stall our economic growth? Maybe we cannot answer that question today, but we all know that point looms on the horizon when we must answer that question. And if we don't act, we or our children, or perhaps in my case, even our grandchildren, are going to find out the hard way. The burden of our borrowing is going to fall on our future generations, hurting their ability to flourish. I wonder how many of us want to look our children or our grandchildren, or maybe in some cases our great-grandchildren, in the eye and say, we weren't responsible enough to do that. We're going to leave that burden to you. I could not in good faith support the recent budget cap agreement, nor could I support the most recent omnibus bill. In fact, I voted for the Cut, Cap, and Balance Act during my first year in Congress, which would have capped the future spending based on the GDP, and I'm very proud of that vote. That same year, I supported the Budget Control Act, which reined in the years of high-level discretionary spending. Some of my colleagues across the aisle are trying to use this bill to attack the tax cuts. But tax cuts are not the problem. Our economy needed a jolt, and that's what we did. In fact, let's just look back a couple of years at what our economic growth was. Didn't even make it out of 2%. Many quarters we were down at 1.5%. We're up at 3% now. Is that not something that's worth jolting the economy for? Where jobs are being created, that just didn't happen out of the horizon. That's because of tax cuts that we see the jobs being created. And by the way, people are having more money in their pocket as a result of that. We will continue to see economic growth from our tax cuts for years to come. As a matter of fact, I was just with a group of people not long ago that were talking about how a small business owner, a lady that had a pizza shop that started out in her in that organization as washing dishes, serving pizza. She then bought it. And you know what she's been able to do because of this tax cut? She's now bought a second business. Someone who started out as a dishwasher. That's what our tax cuts are doing. Spending is the problem. Our mandatory spending has been projected to nearly quadruple by 2040. Our population is aging. Our workforce participation rate is stagnant. For every 1.65 employed persons in the private sector, we have one person who receives welfare assistance. When people need assistance, we want to give them assistance. But work is dignity. Mr. Chairman, may I have another 2 minutes?
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to yield 3 minutes to the gentlewoman.
The gentlewoman is recognized for 3 minutes.
Work is dignity. That's what our goal should be, not having people depend upon the government. When you ask somebody what they do and they can tell you what they do, they're prideful. Because after you ask someone their name, what do you ask them? What do you do? We want everybody to be at work, not where 1.65 people employed in the sector, one is receiving welfare assistance. That's not dignity. This must be addressed. My budget last year began this process of addressing mandatory spending, and we need to build on that progress. I agree that offering a constitutional amendment should be done rarely and reluctantly. Our debt burden threatens the kind of country that we leave behind for our children and grandchildren, and we must end this borrow and spend cycle that has gone on for far, far too long. Ensuring future generations have the same opportunities that we have today means making hard choices. No more delays, no more denials. I urge my colleagues to vote for this resolution, and I yield back the balance of